Welcome to Behind the Real Estate. I am your host, Paul Ponitkoff. I interview real estate agents so we can hear their real stories. Many of the stories that we're going to hear on the show will not be found in a real estate practice book. We can learn a lot from real estate agents and their mistakes and find the value and the education within their stories. I'd like to introduce my next guest, Mr. David and Maria Clutts with Country Estates here in the beautiful Bay Area. David, Maria, it is a pleasure to have you. Welcome to the show.
Yay.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So,
Nice to be here.
thank you. Maria, let's start with you.
Okay.
Why real estate?
Good question. Well, because I moved up to Fairfield to get married to David 5 years ago, and I had just left a cafe business where I was working on my feet every day. I was looking for something a little arty, maybe managerial. I was looking at city jobs. I couldn't find anything quickly, and David had bought me the books, the real estate books, and I was thinking about it going, I have a lot of self-motivation. I have a lot of go get it, hustle. I love houses. I love designing interior design of houses and staging. And I thought, you know what, I bet I could do it. And then, of course, I had a great instructor and mentor. He's my husband and partner.
For sure. So are you like individual agents or are you like a two-headed realtor?
Yeah, we're a two-headed realtor. No, we're more like Medusa. We're like an eight-head.
We are.
There is a resemblance there. That's why I look carefully.
So that's basically.
How about you, David? What's an overview of how you got into real estate?
I was selling my home for sale by owner in 2003, and I got into some trouble. I wrote a scathing article that showed up in the Daily Republic about Sassoon City and the condition of our neighborhood, you know. And so the day I was supposed to close escrow, the buyer comes to me with the article in her hand, and I finally had to ask her, you know, do you want to go forward or not? And one of my mentors, Catherine Wiley, she was my former realtor, but she told me what to do. So I took that and I closed my own real estate deal. Just before this deal, I closed a foreclosure, one of the few in the county. So that day of closing, I went to title, and the title escrow officer back then was Joe Dial at Chicago Title. And she mentioned to me, had you ever thought about doing real estate? And I went, no, I really hadn't. And it went ding. So I was a carpenter, and then I was a general contractor, and I moved to Salon County in 1993. So that night, I opened up the Daily Republic, and there it is, in a little bold square, real estate classes. Well, it just happened to be at the company I first worked at, Initial California Realty. Next day, I'm on the phone, and then the next day, on Thursday, I'm in class. So 2 days after it was mentioned to me, should I be a real estate agent, I'm in class. And a few months later, in April of 2000, I got my license. And there I was. I was still doing remodel, and I was starting to do real estate. And I had amazing mentors. I wouldn't have made it that far without the group of the elders that I had in that office. They were the top agents in the county at that time, and I learned so much from them. And so now we are 20 years later. It's amazing. And so now I am vice president or president-elect of the Northern Salon Association of Realtors.
That is correct. Congratulations and well-deserved.
Thank you very much. I worked really hard at that. And I also won 2018 Realtor of the Year in Northern Solano County. So I don't know how I got here, but I know it was by rolling my sleeves up and doing a lot of work and educating myself. And for a guy without a high school diploma, I make as much money as my doctor.
All right.
I help a lot of people, and it's just an amazing journey to be on. And I give back through the Realtor Association because it's given me what I was unable to do myself. And here I am in this amazing career with amazing people like yourself, Paul. And I just gravitate toward good people. And thank you for asking. It's awesome.
Have you ever had to fire a client?
No, never. I've had clients that, you know, you have a relationship with people, right? And you build that relationship and you do your best to do your best for them. And so if you feel like you're not doing your best, you might tell them, or, you know, step it up, or if they, you know, decide not to sell or something, you might follow up occasionally, or not to buy. You know, there's those kind of things that happen, but out and out, fire and out.
And David?
No. I have had let go of people that have not yet become clients. Or, you know, maybe I might have written offers for somebody and then continue to discontinue work for them. Generally around expectations. And people have expectations, and if they couldn't get their expectations in line with what reality was in the current market or what they were trying to do, or if they were nasty people, then I just had to let go of them. But once in contract, never. I always grounded out until the very end and stayed with them.
For the record, I've had to do it one time.
Really?
Yes, and it was just in about a year ago. No, but that'll be saved for another episode.
Yes, you have to tell us.
On that same note, I will say that maybe I should have fired a couple.
Ooh.
You know, and I have some battle scars and some stories in real estate that are crazy.
Oh, we'll go there.
All right, we'll go there. Maria and I have experienced a really good one together.
Yeah. Very good. We want it juicy.
It was juicy.
You know, the deeper I go into real estate and the more agents that I meet, I realize that real estate agents have a really good story. Most times, the worst stories are the most interesting stories. And so I wanted to ask you, David, what is one of your worst experiences in real estate?
I sold a home to a lady who had just inherited $1.5 million from her grandparents in Napa, and I sold her a home over here in Fairfield. 3.5 years later, she called me to sell. I show up with listing agreement, appropriate paperwork. I take the property, I take the listing, and she has her boyfriend there, and he's obviously been in prison for a long time before she met him. So as I'm going through the transaction with them, the lies begin. And the second day, they have we buy houses, sell cheap, we buy your houses cheap guy shows up, walks past my real estate sign and signs a purchase agreement with our buyers for about $175,000 below our listed price. So that took a little bit of work. And I tried to ask them, why would you give up 15 days of time over $175,000 worth of work? So it was kind of fishy. I made him go away because I have a lot of friends, and I sat on the real estate fraud advisory board, and I was able to pull some strings and get the guy off them because he meant no good for them. So as I go through the process with them, she divulges to me that the man in the property is not her husband, but her husband is actually doing 25 to life in Soledad. So we've had a lot of problems up to this point. And at one point, she doesn't want him to know she's selling her house because she's afraid he's going to come after some of her proceeds. I might also mention that she inherited $1.5 million 3.5 years before, and in 3.5 years later, she was dead broke. She hadn't paid the PG&E in over a year, and she hadn't paid a single property tax, and there was a whole lot going on. She had just had a miscarriage, and they were really she was just such a victim. Anyways, the funny thing was, I pulled off one of the biggest hat tricks in real estate ever. I made a phone call to Soledad, and within 5 business days, myself and my escrow officer were able to get that gentleman to quit claim off of her property in 5 business days from Soledad prison.
It's amazing.
It was one of the coolest things I've ever done. Then the next problem was, she came to me, my escrow officer called me and said, hey, your clients are here. She wants to transfer all of her proceeds into her boyfriend's account. So I kind of stepped out of my real estate hat and I met her at Starbucks, and I told her it was a really bad idea. I might have said it was a stupid move or something, I'm not sure.
I don't think you did. To
transfer her money away to her live-in boyfriend who was up to no good. And I felt really bad. Matter of fact, I envisioned her on the way that she was pushing a shopping cart. It was so bad. The next day, we're in front of my broker and I'm fired. We didn't get fired. We were able to have our friends in our office, 2 agents in our office, take over our deal, and they had the worst 8 days of their life of a real estate deal, including the boyfriend punching the pest repairman at the end because he wanted to go past the fumigation tag on the door to get in. And we closed that deal with a lot of battle scars. And the coolest thing, 3 days later, Maria and I are in Honduras on an unplanned vacation for 10 days, and we spent every nickel of that commission on Honduras. And so that was probably that probably took my cake. And I've had a number of people that have not been nice, meddled, thought they were experts, but this one was probably one that I will never forget. And the guy still is around, and occasionally an agent calls me and asks me, hey, do you know this guy? And they go, yes, I do. And they go, well, he's talking bad about you. I go, I know he is. And they ask me about him. I go, if you take him on as a client, you're at your own risk. I would suggest you move on with somebody else. So when you're talking about firing clients, I've had 4 agents call me now about him, and he's mentioned me every single time, and they've chosen not to work with him. So it was crazy. He took a complete advantage of this woman, and it was really, really heartbreaking for Maria and I with it. So it was one of those really tough times in real estate. How about you, Maria?
No, I haven't really had a bad deal or a treacherous one. I mean, it's hard when, like for me as a newer agent, I'm very hesitant to make any mistakes. And I always clear it with either David or my broker, what I'm thinking. And I've had very good advice, and I've never had a really bad, crazy thing that's happened. But the things that are hard are when you can't, like when you have a client that just isn't so in love with the house, and maybe they're up against a number of other bidders, and they can't get it for whatever reason. We didn't win.
That disappointment.
That is so disappointing, because like I've cried, because they wanted something so bad, and I know I want to get it for them so bad. And I know how devastated they feel, especially if they've been trying for a while. And they're usually the first-time buyers that it's just a fast market, and sometimes they just have a hard time.
And the reverse can be true when you're a listing agent and you get multiple offers, and you have to let down.
One. Yeah, exactly.
And let the others down, but they reveal to you how much they wanted the house, or their agent reveals how much their buyers really wanted the house.
I think that's like the hardest thing. Or maybe the other thing that was really sad for us, it was sad because we really wanted our clients to have what they wanted, but they had put a lot of money down as a deposit. Remember the Napa one? I mean, the Napa people. And they were counting on money coming in from a fire, and they were really sure that it was going to happen in a timely manner, and they really wanted this bed and breakfast house up in near Gualala, and they couldn't make the numbers happen because the money didn't come in, and then there was a divorce in the middle of it. So we had advised them not to make, I think it was the second deposit, right? It was
it was Gualala, and we had some people that were burned out in Lake County, and they were shopping, and they were all over the place, and they found this bread and breakfast.
It's beautiful
in Anchor Bay, and so we got them into contract. We started inspecting it, and then the details start unfolding in real estate deals, and he had an insurance settlement coming from his fire burn. He supposedly had $500,000 in the bank to use. He had things, but what he failed to tell us is that he was in a divorce. So he had all this money added up, and the wife, the soon-to-be ex-wife, was getting half of all the money.
And he was an accountant, so he was very sure of all his numbers. But yet, it
was so complex. It ended up with he had to sign off the $10,000, giving it directly to the seller to extend. And then again, when we couldn't get his financing, we tried to do an option, which is like a rent-to-own type of a thing, right? And it was very complex, and he had to give up another $25,000 non-refundable, and I urged him both occasions not to give the money up. And he told me he knew what he was doing. He was a New York financier and all this stuff. And then when he couldn't get this secondary financing, and the seller was even going to finance him for a period of time, and I just urged him the whole time not to do it. And that's the only time in my entire career that anyone has ever lost a deposit. And it was a big deposit, $35,000 in fact. and it made us sick to our stomach.
Yeah.
They call us still and thank us sometimes because they know that, we didn't play. I don't play anyways.
We tried everything for them.
We never count the money.
Really wanted
we don't
them
count
to
the
have
money.
it.
We don't count the money ever before we get there. We get the deal done and take care of people before we ever get there,
Mm-hmm. That was hard. That was hard.
That was a hard one. And then they ended up rebuilding in Lake County. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't it wasn't a horrible story. He got his insurance money and his divorce went through, and they built a new home. Okay. It's a funny thing. You have to learn how to be flexible. You have to be like a cat. You have to be able to move. You have to be able to step out at dinner at the fancy restaurant in San Francisco sometimes. You have to be able to disappoint a few people in your life, to step aside and take a phone call just to service people. You have to do it. And if you want a good career, you do. And people love to have their phone answered. Or they're going to feel that they weren't important. Even if they stay with you. Sometimes it's beyond the deal, right? You have to be beyond the deal. Real estate, if anything, has taught me relationships. My gosh, I didn't know how to do relationships. I still have trouble with relationships, intimate, small relationships are tough, right? Two people all the time. But relationships as a general are the key to real estate. And all of the fancy internet-ing and all the fancy things you do will never get your career to the point to building relationships with people. Mm-hmm. And I learned that. It took a decade. Once I got involved in the Realtor Association, then I started meeting people. I was the government affairs chair, and I started meeting people. And at some point, I had mayor's cell phone numbers, and different people I could call, and different people I knew. And I didn't intend for that to happen, but it all happened, and it was because I built the relationships. And now, finally, in this period of career, I've gotten the referral work. Finally, I used to watch the lady, the pretty realtor lady in the Cadillac, she just had work coming out of her ears, right? It was all referral stuff. And I always had trouble with that, but now it's finally here.
That's the ultimate threshold. There's no shortcuts to that. Yeah. There's no shortcuts to earning that referral business.
You have to prove yourself.
You have to go through the trenches, earn that.
I'm involved in a certain group I'll leave unnamed, but it's a group of people that I associate with. And I just closed my 19th real estate transaction from referrals from that group of people.
Incredible.
And not once in that group did I ever promote myself. And so that
says a lot.
That's when real estate gets really good, is when you start spreading out from being a robot salesperson, just trying to do, listen, open houses or things like those kinds of things. They're important. They are a pie. But when you start working out into social networking, like physically social networking, not just, social media networking, and you start building these relationships, what happens is then you start working in your little micro local climate where you're at, and that changes your whole game. We live in 94534. If we could sell all the houses in 94534, we would. We know we go out of 94534. We sell all of the county, and we get over the bridges, and we get in Sacramento sometimes. But keeping yourself in the local area, you could do a better job. You're a better expert at what you do. You know what you're doing. You know where you're at, and so.
Maria, you got a funny story?
They're more awkward than funny.
Okay.
Like the awkward.
Yes.
It's one time, Dad was in the bathroom at a 4 o'clock showing with the kids home and the mom home, and Dad was reading a magazine when we opened the door. That was awkward. We had to leave that house pretty quick. But I think the funniest one maybe was, and it was kind of aside from real estate, but it was connected. Dave wanted me to meet some of his friends and hang out and do something fun, right? That he go play poker. That he used to do a lot when he, in the past. So I went Tuesday night, Cypress Lakes, hanging out with his buddies, and all of a sudden the dealer lady, she was really sweet. What's her name?
May.
May. She was she was like showing me what to do. Like I had never really played that much poker, and I was Tex told him, and so she goes, "Hey, Dave's ex-wife just walked in," and I go, "Really?" I'm like, "Awesome." I've never met her. I don't know her. Used to be ex-partner in real estate, and I'm like, "Okay, I can handle this. This is gonna be fun now." So I went and got another drink, came back, started playing, and lo and behold, I started winning, right? And Dave's like laughing at me going, "Wouldn't it be funny if you and Rebecca were playing together at the final table?" Well, guess what? Next thing you know,
sure
David, Maria, and Rebecca are at the final table. Next thing you know, it's me and Rebecca against one another. She won. I lost. But it was so funny. I was like, okay, this is awkward, but who cares? It was hilarious.
Can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
So bringing people into real estate, your family and friends, right? I've had some experience with that, right? And you know, it's not taken very well until this one.
Aww.
You know, both my children have been in real estate. My daughter actually is still part of our team. She's off in nursing school.
Yes, Team Clutts.
Team Clutts, right? So it's not for everybody. This is not for everybody. A lot of people don't have this stuff good, but it's funny. It's funny. I love seeing that, and I love seeing when someone brings one of their children in and you see it, and they team up with their parents and they hand the legacy off. It's kind of cool.
If you could travel back into time to your first year in real estate, what advice would you give yourself?
You're not bothering people when you ask them if they want to buy or sell a home. You have to get over it. If you don't, you won't sell. You have to take no. No is just no. It doesn't mean it's personal, it's just no. And so, matter of fact, I formed a group at my second company, Realtor World, called Wealth Watchers, and we talked about calling, and we used to have pizza parties, and we would, who could get the first 25 rejections on the phone? We would cold call, right? And then the second thing I would say, if I told myself, I would probably hire a financial advisor at the very beginning to help me meter out, how am I going to meter my money out? And because if I had, I'd probably be a pretty wealthy guy right about now. You know, so I probably would have weathered the 2007 to 2012 storm a little better. So I think having somebody help you with your finances early on, setting a plan would probably be the best thing you could do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Golden nugget right there.
Absolutely golden nugget.
How about you, Maria? If you could travel back in time and talk to your former self in your first year of real estate, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I got pretty good encouragement from the beginning, and but the one thing that I think was one of the most valuable things that somebody said to me after I'd been in real estate for a while is don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to just be who you are, and like, you know, you think you have to go out and know everything. You think you have to go out and be really kind of assertive or aggressive, or and you don't. You can find your niche, and I think it's really important to find your niche, to find what makes you happy, that brings you joy in doing a job, no matter what. Like, so I found that I really liked open houses, and once I discovered that, I would find clients, and I would make connections with people. I would understand the neighborhood better. Sometimes the neighbors would come in and talk to me and tell me about the neighborhood, or tell me about somebody else who was buying or selling, or you know, or they were interested in looking, you know, what was my house worth now? And once I found out I responded to that, that's what I did. And I think that is really an important step, is finding out what makes you happy, what makes, you know, what do you like to do?
Maria, what would you say the biggest misconception about a real estate agent is?
I think that people think it's easy. I think that maybe they don't understand how much we do on the back end, how much we're really working on their behalf all the way through, how much research we do on a property, how much we have to understand over years and years of knowledge to see how to get something through that might come up as a problem. And David has more about that too, because he really helps me and really thinks deeply about properties. And so, yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot about it from him. And so when people like think it's all about the commission, or that we're just, you know, I don't know, out there to show houses, and I think they don't realize that how much more involved of a deal it is, and how much we care.
We don't just look at properties all day and throw a sign out in the yard. You know, what's behind the scenes is actually our clients don't really see.
Yeah, like there's years and years and years of knowledge, right, that you've built up, and experiences that you've had that have led you to be the good agent that you are, right? So.
In your opinion, what would you say the biggest misconception about a real estate agent is?
That a lot of real estate agents don't utilize the Realtor organization. And a lot of people, lay people who are selling and buying homes, don't understand what the Realtor organization has done for real estate as a whole and for them as buyers and sellers. The Realtor organization is your advocate for real estate. They fight for private property rights. They fight for equal rights in real estate. They fight for the way you get loans. They fight for just about everything you can imagine that happens inside of you buying and selling real estate. And other people do not utilize it or understand it or care to understand it. Realtors are your advocates in real estate, and your agent should have a Realtor R.
David Maria, it was a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. It's been fun.
Thank you for watching another episode of Behind the Real Estate. If you have questions that you would like me to ask in upcoming interviews, please leave in the comment section below. Also, don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell, so you don't miss the latest interview. Thank you.